Hello, my name is Nick Zephyr Lowe. Uh, as you can probably tell from the title, I'm going to be reading a fan fiction. It's called Blades of Alliance. I wrote it myself, and it is the first chapter. I recently edited it, and I felt like showing it off. If you want, you can read along. It's right on fanfiction.net, and yeah, here we go. The 15-year-old boy named Zeke had waited 2 whole days to get a copy of the new game. He'd heard of the game for over a year now, and finally it was going to be released. Even when he got there, the small game shop in their city had at least 700 people just waiting there for the chance to buy the game. The night he went out, he hadn't expected so many other people to have the same idea as him. After all, they were only going to be releasing 15,000 copies of the game. Although it was a long wait, it was well worth it. After 2 whole days of waiting in an extremely long line, and not being English, Zeke finally entered behind the red-haired guy that had been in front of him these past few hours. After such a wait, he couldn't stand it any longer. He dashed up to the counter and shoved his 180 euros over the counter, and had his dream come true. The bored-looking clerk at the counter reached behind him and handed a package into Zeke's open arms. The second the red box was firmly in his arms and his pack on his back, the boy raced home. He ran the whole 2 kilometers to his room and, though tired, shredded open the plastic-like cardboard and gingerly removed the shining but heavy-ish headgear that looked more like a headband with tentacles and 2 input slots, his SIM gear. Laying it aside, still in its protective screens, he reached in and withdrew the cables and game port. The port looked like one of those old cassette cases made from metal. A power box had been attached, and a WAN connector was on top. Zeke had owned a computer for years. He'd watched the development of computers since he was 7 in 2016. Now he was 8 years older, and now he was about to play the most anticipated game of the year. He stripped the game port of its anti-static wrapper and plugged the cable into the back of his gaming cube computer. The computer had cost him his whole 3 years' worth of savings, and when he'd heard of the requirements to play the new game, it was, after all, worth the cost. It was simple for the enthusiastic teen to install the case and the data for it. The 120 gigabytes of download was nothing now. 8 years ago, it would have taken hours. Now, it took only about 25 minutes. It only goes to show how much this world's electronic power has grown. But the kid in question had 25 restless minutes to himself. During this time, he removed the rest of the contents of the mutilated box. He drew out the small box of screws and clips and whatnots to lock everything in place. He did as the instructions said, going even as far as moving his bed around his messy room to his computer. The download had only gone about 31 gigabytes. He opened a small plastic box and pulled out a stack of manuals, maybe 1.5 inches of loosely packed pamphlets. He skimmed over all 6 of them, absorbing about half the knowledge that he read. It was cool, even though while reading almost anything else bored him. It had allowed his computer to eat through about 100 gigabytes. The estimated time read about 6.5 minutes left. Zeke had ground his teeth waiting for 2 days, playing all his games to boredom. Now he didn't know what to do. He had never been good at waiting, but he'd always managed to survive, though some he didn't know he would make it. Now he took out the game cartridge. The red and streaked white title sticker had its golden letters say the name. It was called Alpha Blades Online. It was abbreviated like all long names to ABO. The cartridge was about the size of a deck of playing cards. Zeke was closely inspecting the pins for bends when his computer emitted a ding like a bell, alerting him to the finished download. He sprang up as fast as he was able, mainly from nerves. It was time. He pulled open the port and carefully inserted the cartridge. He clicked down the port and pushed the WAN activation button. Then he threw off the headgear's casing and slipped it over his head. It took some time to position the small connectors, but finally, when he clicked the buttons on the side, the heavy band expanded into a helmet, covering his eyes. Almost as soon as his vision cut out, it was turned back on by the electrical impulses the helmet created. There was a digital green clock in the right-hand corner that said it was 14:38. Sorry. The server had started over 8 minutes ago. Zeke knew the sight he had was synthetic, but it looked as real as anything in real life, even if he saw it could never exist. A floating cube the size of his vision was there, and he could only see that. He could still feel his body, his bed. He just couldn't see. Well, at least not his room. On the cube was a white liquid, like a white liquid flowing around and shimmering with non-existent light. On one side was a set of black and white, quite literal, instructions, and on the other side was a diagram. Then, sorry, then out of nowhere was a woman's voice. She read out the instructions. Please touch your body in the diagram to the right as shown. This is to help the sim gear map out your nervous system. The voice cut out when Zeke touched both of his forearms. Good, now follow the next set of instructions. Zeke obliged and touched his shoulders. After 6 or 7 minutes of this, the cube disappeared and another one took its place. But this one was golden, and it was a cube that had glowing red and white text of Alpha Blades Online on it. The game selection menu. Zeke reached out and touched the cube, and something like highly charged static electricity shocked his finger where it touched. But when he pulled his finger away to cradle it, everything disappeared. He couldn't feel his bed anymore. He couldn't feel anything, in fact. He felt weightless. He was cool, yet very scary. Welcome to the character creation. Here in Alpha Blades Online, your sim gear will scan your body data and create an avatar closely to resemble you. Differences are to protect your identity. A few pictures were shown A few pictures were shown as the game loaded a bar in the corner. You can change your hair and eye color, but height and genders will be kept for your comfort. More options and pictures. Certain stats will be given by the styles you choose and armor you equipped, but these effects are only available in combat or when talking to NPCs. Certain effects give boost to your other stats, like strength, that can affect you at all times. It took maybe a full minute of basics before anything new appeared. A new basic menu popped up, and there was a character that looked similar to him, but had long fuchsia hair and rainbow eyes. Plus he was wearing something like a muscle shirt and tight shorts, both gray. It was sickening to see him with hair and clothes like that. But on the menu there were items to put on it to his character. Only, how was he going to drag anything? He had no hands. He must have spent 3 whole minutes concentrating before anything happened. It was when he tried to reach out to the menu when the character in front of him moved. His arm moved out to the side, like he was trying, only to the opposite side, like a mirror. When he tried to reach out to the right, opposite of the menu, his body nearly touched a lilac bottom robe. He was not, repeat not, going to wear a skirt in front of thousands of people. Instead, he reached up carefully to touch a tab called Swordsman. He pulled away the list of dresses and walking sticks. Now there were tunics and swords and shields. None of the things on the list were very nice or fancy. That was to be expected. No one wanted someone else starting off with a sword that was boss level, or anything that appeared so. After 5 minutes of adjusting things, Zeke was finally satisfied with his look, even if he couldn't fix how his lips should have been. The best touch that he changed was his hair. He changed the thickness to full and the style to wavy spiked. They adjusted to the goggles he'd found, and they fit perfectly. He adjusted his ear points to be slightly tapered, but it wasn't extremely elf-looking. Several minutes later, when a bell chimed off in the distance, Zeke's vision switched, and now he was behind his seemingly perfect avatar. At least that's what he thought about it. Now it showed him with his speed up, and his attack wasn't overly high. Still, he had opted to forego a shield and to have an offensive defense. He would attack to defend, meaning his armor suffered badly. His attack was 22, and his defense was 10, his speed 35. His other stats, like charisma, didn't really concern him too much. His battered heirloom blade hung on his back comfortably, as his backpack had earlier, but a bit lighter. He reached down and pressed the small gray button of accept. This time, Zeke was ready. As his vision went dark, he simply relaxed. He only waited a few seconds before a username box popped up. He thought for a second, and a keyboard in the sorry. He thought for a second, and a keyboard appeared in front of him, along with a copy of his avatar. He could feel the cool metal under his virtual fingers, when he touched the keys. This kind of board would cost maybe 60 or so euros. Here, it only costed data. He decided simply on the username Alpha Sword, but it was already taken, so he tried Zeke underscore 123. That one was taken too. Strange. So finally he used his last good name, so he quickly typed Metal Dragon. Only in his haste he typed Metal Dargon. But it wasn't taken, and it passed. Zeke hadn't even looked when he pressed enter. The keyboard disappeared into a million pixels, and he was stuck with a mistyped name. The boxes faded, and Zeke saw what he had typed in an explosion of fireworks, before everything but him faded again. But at least he wasn't stuck with one of those common names that everybody else had. Sorry. This time, when the world appeared, Zeke was not surprised at all that he had paid 180 for the game alone. The hardware was a different story. His goggles now weighed down on his forehead, and his brownish-red tunic rippled in the light wind. The cobblestone beneath his feet was so real he could hardly tell he was in a game. The texture of his leather sheath's leather strap was real. Even his leather boots, like pirates, were more comfortable than they had looked. But he definitely wasn't the only one in the square. Other people were appearing in a whirlwind of pixels, each one landing perfectly. Well, that guy not over there. What? He looked like he had some genetical defect, or maybe some kind of fungus. There was always that one guy like that. Zeke's light and mildly curvy mocha hair blew in the wind created by everyone's whirlwinds, and he decided to start off on his journey. He still remembered some of the things he had from the manuals he had read. Kill monsters, get XP, buy stuff, kill more stuff. At least that's what he thought it said. Same thing, right? The moment he stepped, though, he knew. He had just messed up. A pretty girl with dark wavy brown hair appeared in front of him as he took a step. Trying to be cool, he tripped and fell. Okay, guys, that is the end of the first chapter. Um, Thanks for joining me for this. It means a lot. And if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, anything like that. My name is Nick Lowe. This story is written by Lowe Plays, me. So if you search up on fanfiction.net, Lowe Plays, you will find me. If you enjoyed the story, and you were reading along, you can favorite it and leave a review if you want. Any feedback is necessary for continued support and anything to get good, actually. Also, I would like to thank the people on the communities for helping support the idea of me reading this. Anyway, I guess I'll read to you guys later. Bye.